Well, just to give you a brief introduction about myself, I live in Portland, Oregon. Anybody in the audience has been to Portland, Oregon? Somebody. Dr. Homer, you have been to Portland. It's beautiful, it's healthy, we get very fresh air to breathe. I've been living in Portland since last 20 years, and I love it. Even though I'm in Boracay, I miss Portland. It's one of the healthiest cities, and very, very happy people live there. We eat a lot of organic food. We have beautiful Mount Hood. This is the Portland downtown. And we have this Mount Hood. We have this beach. Well, we don't call it beach. It's a coast because water is too cold. We can't get in the water. This is what it looks like right now. Our fall season is the most beautiful. But I get to spend most of my days in this building, my lab, and doing all kinds of fun stuff that I don't get to do on a daily basis. I do it here. This is what we've been doing since we got here, enjoying and having some fun. This is what we did the other day when it was raining. Just 2 days ago, it was raining cats and dogs, but we were up in the sky. But the most that I loved was this yesterday. Have you done this helmet diving here in Boracay? Oh, please do that for sure. I was scared before I went in, but my wife said, come on, let's do it. So I listened to her. Well, I didn't have a choice. So I got in there, but we had a great time. We really enjoyed it. So, but anyways, coming back to work here, we are here to talk about biohacking. What is biohacking? Biohacking is basically utilizing all the information that we have gathered so far, everything that we have done to practice medicine, every single device that has been developed so far to improve technologies, data mining, combining every possible clinical information that we have on hand today, and doing something better or doing something different, thinking out of the box. Now, well, I was going to ask you, what is your current mood? And I know already what is your current mood after listening, there's no lunch. So there can be many, many different reasons that you get stressed, right? The causes of mood swings can be multiple. Any kinds of issues, physical, emotional stress, or any different kinds of life changes like breakups or consuming alcohol, drugs, etc. So in this next 30-40 minutes, what I'm going to talk to you about is what causes changes in our mood. And it's not just the mood, but it's everything connected with balance between our hormones. I want to talk to you about hormones. Everything in body works with each other, in conjunction with each other. Nothing in our body works in isolation. Would you agree with me on that? Thank you. So what I want to talk to you is to show you today how different axes that we know, like HPA axis that you see in front of you. There is HPA axis, there is HPT axis, thyroid, then there is HPG axis, gonadotropin hormones. So I want to talk to you how these are all connected with each other to cause changes that we see in our body, in our hormones, that result in different issues. So as you can see, whenever there is any kind of stress, our hypothalamus is activated to release ACTH, which activates the adrenals to produce epinephrine or norepinephrine in case of acute stress. And there is production of cortisol as well at the same time to fight that small stress. But when the stressor does not go away, there is chronic elevation of cortisol. Cortisol keeps on producing because the negative feedback that stops the production of cortisol also stops when there is chronic stress. And when there is chronic stress, you see all kinds of issues with insulin sensitivity goes down, growth hormone decreases, thyroids have issues, T3 goes down. And then there are all kinds of fat and protein mobilization issues that you see in case of chronic elevation of cortisol. So, you know there is what happens in acute stress and chronic stress. So when there is acute stress, there is production of energy to fight that stress. There's a lot of ATP molecules produced by mitochondria to fight that acute stress. So when there is chronic stress, what happens is the mitochondrial function is compromised, right? And when that happens, there is less ATP production, but more reactive oxygen species are formed. And we all know what goes wrong when there is more reactive oxygen species. So why this happens in chronic stress? You might have heard the term pregnenolone steal. So what happens in pregnenolone steal is that the whole process of DHEA or estrone, estriol, estradiol, testosterone production stops. Only cortisol continues to be produced. So there is continuous elevation of cortisol. And that's what we call as pregnenolone steal when there is chronic stress. And when there is chronic stress, what happens is there is adrenal failure. And these are the different stages of adrenal failure. As you can clearly see, increased cortisol. And when there is increased cortisol, there is no DHEA production, there is no pregnenolone, and ultimately the adrenals give up. And that's what happens because of pregnenolone steal. Now when there is stress, when there is cortisol production, we cannot forget testosterone, because there is a direct correlation or inverse correlation between cortisol and testosterone. When there is high cortisol, the testosterone levels decline. So what happens, as you can see here, when there is testosterone production declines, there is increase in central obesity, aromatase activity increases, conversion to estradiol increases. On the other side, testosterone, when there is low testosterone, inflammation increases. And when there is increased inflammation, then everything connected with inflammation comes into play. I know this slide looks a little bit busy, so just to make it simple, I just have this one, and which clearly shows that when the testosterone production goes down, the estradiol goes up, and which is connected with central obesity, insulin resistance, and pro-inflammatory markers like IL-6, TNF-alpha, and so on and so forth. So low testosterone, we all know it has been connected with several different issues like low energy, poor libido, mood swings, and unwanted body changes. Metabolic syndrome. And so chronic stress has been directly connected with low testosterone, therefore metabolic syndrome. So when we are talking about stress, we have to talk about thyroids as well. Because as I said, nothing in the body works in isolation. Everything is connected with everything else. You have to look at it as a spider web. So all these hormones, they are working together like a spider web. You pull one end of the spider web, everything else messes up. So how is it connected, how thyroid hormones are connected with the mood? And why do you need to take care of the thyroids? Well, when we say that somebody is healthy, a patient is healthy, there is no need for additional TSH production. But when the production of T3 and T4 goes down, we need more TSH because TSH is required, even though TSH is not a thyroid hormone. It is a thyroid stimulating hormone. It's interesting that we all look at TSH first to categorize hyper or hypothyroidism, right? So, but TSH has a significant role because it is responsible for production of T4 and then conversion from T4 to T3. So normal TSH levels, we all know it's between 0.4 and 4, and hypothyroidism is anything above 4.5, and hyperthyroidism is anything less than 0.4 of TSH. Now how cortisol and TSH, or how HPA axis and HPT axis are connected with each other. As you can see here, when there is excessive production of cortisol, it directly impacts the level or production of TSH. And it also impacts conversion of T4 to T3. And that's how, when there is increased cortisol, immediate effect on thyroids. So thyroids have to be affected when you're in more stress. And thyroids are basically connected. TSH has a significant role connecting with the neurotransmitters and impacting the overall mood and of course everything connected with the brain. Alzheimer's, depression, autism disorder, anything connected with neurotransmitters, it gets affected by TSH. So as in the beginning I said, there are 3 different axes that we have to talk about. So we looked at the HPA axis, we looked at the HPT axis. HPG axis is also affected by mood, by stress. So, which is basically production of LH-FSH for ultimate production of testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone. That's the HPG axis. How is this axis affected by increased cortisol? Again, there is a direct impact of increased cortisol on the production of estradiol and progesterone. There is increased cortisol inhibits the production of LH-FSH, which impacts the production of estrogen and progesterone. So as you can see very clearly that cortisol sits right in the center of all of these axes and impacts all of these different hormones. You all know how estrogen is important. It has multiple important functions, estrogen and serotonin. When we are talking about mood, estrogen levels impact the levels of serotonin. And serotonin is basically controls mood, appetite. Estrogen and HPA axis, as you saw, cortisol, increased cortisol leads to decreased production of estrogen and progesterone. So what I'm trying to say is you have to understand how these hormones, all of these hormones are impacted by increased cortisol levels. And how all of these three different axes are connected with each other. Basically, as you can see here in this one, when there is stress, there is stimulation of gonadotropin inhibitory hormone, which basically decreases the gonads, the gonadotropin hormone, releasing hormone, which is responsible for production of LHFSH. And when there is increased gonadotropin hormone levels, that results in inhibition of thyroid hormones at the same time. So all of these three different axes are connected with each other. We only talked about problems so far, but every problem needs a solution too. What is the solution? Now, I know we have to find a solution where we can have fun too. You've been so quiet for the last 15-20 minutes. I want to make some fun here. Change the mood. Trust me, somebody is cooking lunch. So don't worry about it. We will get lunch. So may I please ask all of you to just stand up, because I want to show you what is the solution. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to do anything crazy here. So I will ask you some questions here. And if your answer to that question is a no, then you can sit down. And the winner will be the person standing at the end. Let me see how many winners do we have today in the audience. So you eat healthy diet with fruits and veggies every single day. Awesome. I love it. I really love it. Every single day. At least 5 servings. Awesome. I'm loving this audience. Okay. You exercise every day. Actual exercise. Well, we still have a lot of people standing up. And I have a few more questions. You sleep very well. You get very good sleep every night. Yeah? Awesome. Come on, people, we are doctors here. And that's what we tell our patients, right? This is the advice we give them day in, day out. Your BMI is less than 25. Oh, we still have some. We still have somebody standing. We have 3-4 winners still. But let's see. No alcohol. Do we still have somebody standing? One? We still have, I have one more question. Wait a second. I have one more question.
A razor.
All right. So my last question is, you have no stress. Awesome. Well, this is very rare to find a winner after this quiz.
So this is my birthday gift to her.
Oh, wow.
It's actually my patient.
Oh, nice.
Pleasant day, everyone. I'm not a doctor, but I'm Dr. Lenny's doctor. And I happened to attend this session because it's my birthday today, and this is his birthday gift to me.
Awesome. Well, happy birthday.
Yes, and probably the main reason why I answered all your questions, it's because the commandments of my doctor.
Awesome.
Yes,
Awesome. Well, congratulations.
yes, it's because of him. That's probably why I got it right.
Wonderful, wonderful. Happy birthday, and congratulations, Dr. Homer. Awesome. Wow. Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you so much. So you already got the answers, right? You already got the solutions hidden in this game. Did you? Did you find answers to the problems that we just talked? So it's a holistic approach that we have to follow. All of us, we are working in silos, but now is the time that we have to come together and pool our expertise and work as a team and find solutions in a holistic way. Well, you might say that I go to the gym every day, but that's not the way that you need to go to the gym every day. You really need to exercise. Well, you might say I take my dog for a walk every day, but that's not the right answer. So you have to get active. Brisk walking 30 minutes per day, just 5 days a week, it's perfect. Or 45 to 60 minutes per day for weight loss has been recommended. Weight training can help you burn calories, increase metabolism, boost testosterone and DHEA. Meditation, we all know how effective meditation can be, just controlling cortisol, just bringing the cortisol levels down. Meditation has been shown to be very, very effective. Good sleep, as I said, is extremely, extremely helpful in decreasing your cortisol levels. And what you have to do is increase your leptin and melatonin and growth hormone just by sleeping well, at least 8 hours, at least 7 hours, good sound sleep. Eat right, make good food choices. We say that to everybody else, but we forget to practice on ourselves, and including myself. My boys, I have two boys, one is a dentist and the other one is a lawyer, but they know how to make fun of me. They say, Dad, you always lecture and you give these advices all the time, but how many times you do that? So, and my wife sitting here, she's laughing at me, and she knows I'm the culprit. So, and we are all culprits. We know what is the solution, but we just ignore in our day-to-day lives. We just make excuses that we are too busy. Diet basics, we all know what are the diet basics. This is not a new information here on this slide. But we just need to practice. We just need to bring everything into practice, a reality. Healthy eating is, we all know that we should eat by 10 a.m. and again before noon. So small meals, multiple meals, keep your, eat regular meals. Keep eating smaller meals. Don't skip your breakfast. Absolutely must. Don't skip your breakfast. Avoid all kinds of food that looks good and tastes good. So we have to avoid everything that looks good and tastes good. I don't know why everything that's good for our body doesn't taste good. And I'm sure it has to do something with the microbiome. That what our gut accepts doesn't taste well in our mouth. Dr. Sabine, you have to give me an answer for that. Adrenal fatigue, since we're talking about stress, what is good for adrenal fatigue? What has been recommended over and over? The doses, I don't want to go into all the details here. I know you're waiting for lunch, but vitamin C, vitamin E, B5, calcium, magnesium, and now vitamin D has also been added, minus the calcium, as you heard in the previous lecture. Now you have to be very careful what type of calcium you're using when you're using vitamin D, excessive doses of vitamin D, or excessive doses of vitamin C as well. Hormone balance strategy, you just have to have your mind wrap around this, that whenever there's high insulin, what do? Basically, you focus on high protein diet and exercise, because you have to control high cortisol at the same time. And for high cortisol, we just play the game. I showed you how to control your cortisol. Eat right, sleep enough, reduce stress. High estrogen, focus on some of these supplements or foods that have been recommended to lower your estrogen levels. Low testosterone, zinc has been shown to be very effective in cases of low testosterone. Weight training, high protein diet again. Now, high protein diet has a significant impact on balancing overall all the hormones, insulin, cortisol, testosterone. Low DHEA supplement, 5 to 25 milligrams daily with meals has been recommended. So do that. So the idea is keep a good balance, especially between estrogen and progesterone. It's extremely, extremely important to have a good balance between these two hormones, because these have significant, important functions, especially for women. I just put together a BHRT dosing chart here for your reference. You can take a picture or you can take a copy of the slide later on. And keep it, this is just for reference. Again, every patient is different. You have to look at their hormone levels. You have to test them first before you decide on the doses or the treatment plans. But this chart might help you where to begin with, what kind of doses have been recommended for most of the patients that have hormone imbalance. So then there are adaptogens that have been recommended. Again, take a picture of this or take a copy of the slide. Ashwagandha, Siberian ginseng, licorice root, rhodiola, bacopa, all of these have been very, very helpful to bring your hormones in balance. But most important, before you start treating your patients with all these dietary recommendations and supplements, you have to assess their hormones, because every patient is different. You have to test before you give them or put them on any kind of BHRT. Inflammation is very important to check. Every patient you have to check for inflammation. Adrenal hormones, cortisol, DHEA, you have to test them. Measure androgen levels, testosterone, and any kind of changes in sex hormones. Very, very important. You have to test these hormones before you start any kind of treatment plan. Now, there are limitations of testing these hormones. So you have to forget about the old conventional way of testing hormones in blood. How many of you in this audience disagree with me on this? Anybody? You can be honest. don't worry, you will still get lunch, even if you disagree with me. So initially, I'm sure in medical schools, we were all taught to test everything in blood or urine. But now things have changed. As Dr. Sabine told everybody, that research evolves, right? Changes. Doesn't mean that something we didn't know about doesn't work anymore or doesn't work now. Maybe now we have more information and that has changed the concepts that we were used to. So what I'm trying to tell you is that there are limitations of hormone testing in different body fluids. Some of these hormones can be tested more accurately in saliva as compared to blood, just like these estradiol, progesterone, testosterone, DHEA, and DHEA sulfate, and cortisol. Now saliva has been shown or proven to be gold standard. And I can do another 2-hour lecture on why saliva for these hormones, and why blood for some of these other markers, and why urine for some of the others. But just to give you a little glimpse of what is the difference of testing in different body fluids. So what we did in our lab was we applied topical progesterone on the back of a volunteer, a technician, and we applied 15 milligram of topical progesterone and then collected samples at the same time. We collected the venous serum, venous blood, the finger prick blood, and saliva from the same person. And as you can clearly see, that there was no hormone or no progesterone found in the venous serum. The venous serum right here, there was no progesterone seen. And when we tested the saliva and the capillary blood, you can see how much hormone was detected in those body fluids. So if you were testing your patient through venous blood, you would think that the progesterone that you gave to that patient didn't work. So what will be your next step? Increase the dose. You might think 15 milligram didn't work. Let's try 20, 25, 100. You will not see this kind of change that you see in saliva, because all the hormone has already diffused into salivary glands, and that's where we are seeing the free fraction of hormone diffusing out in the saliva. So this is just one example I wanted to give you. Again, I have tons of data from the lab, from in-house research that we have done, where I can show you that why in some cases it is important to measure saliva and not the venous blood or the capillary blood. And because we have been stuck in old conventional ways of practicing medicine, and this is the reason we still see these numbers going up when we talk about chronic illnesses, right? And this is still in old data now. Globally, the lost productivity is around $3 trillion every year because of the chronic illnesses. So what is the solution? We need to stop here and change the way we practice medicine. Well, I'm not asking you to completely forget whatever we learned in medical schools or in practices. But now is the time that we have to have our patients collaborate with us. We have to have everybody work together, because you don't have time to go to each and individual patient and help them comply with every instruction you give them. So how do you collaborate, or how do you ask your patients to collaborate with you or work with you and help you so that you can help them better? So here is the solution to increase compliance. When I said everything starts with testing the patient properly, so we have seen, and I'm sure you have seen, many of your patients, the compliance is low. When you send them to the lab, the compliance is low. And especially in today's lifestyle, we have lots of excuses to make. So at-home lab testing is now becoming popular, especially after COVID. We all saw what happened during COVID. Nobody could go out. We were all sitting in front of the computers for 2 years and looking for options for survival, looking for options online. So during this time, at-home testing gained a lot of attention. And I'm sure you agree that telehealth is the term getting so popular, and most of us, most of you, I'm sure you're happy about this concept of telemedicine, that you're able to help more and more patients connecting through telehealth and putting more tools into your patient's hands so that they can collaborate with you properly. So that's where my lab, we have been working really, really hard to bring in newer technologies to take these tests to people at home. So we created these kits that people can, or physicians can send to their patients at home, not only in the same city, but anywhere in the world. So people receive these kits, sample collection kits, where they can collect their fingerprint blood or saliva and then mail it back to the lab. And this is what you can do from your offices. You can keep these kits in your offices, give it to the patient, they take it home, they collect their sample and send it back to the lab and get tested. The compliance has grown significantly because of the ease and convenience. Very easy sample collection, and then the patient can mail it back to the lab. And now the labs, most labs like ours, has extensive data that has been gathered. We've tested over almost 3.5 million people and gathered all that data. Based on the AI, now you know that the world is AI is getting attention. And all the data that we have gathered, we can utilize AI and create those wonderful reports that you can explain to your patients very easily. And they love interacting with these reports rather than just those numbers that different conventional labs used to provide. And so this is where the future is going. So at-home tests is becoming, or is getting attention as future of functional medicine. What is functional medicine? When we talk about diseases, well, there are no diseases. Diseases don't exist. Diseases are not there by themselves because there are mechanisms that cause these diseases. And we've been focusing on diseases so far, but we have forgotten to focus on the mechanisms. We need to determine what are the mechanisms that cause those diseases, because diseases don't exist by themselves. It's not about what, it's about why. We have to focus on why. Whatever we see, it's why. So it's time for a paradigm shift, complete paradigm shift. We have to change the way we have been practicing medicine so far, because obviously it has not been working the way it should. So that's where we need this biohacking. And I'm so thankful to Dr. Homer for organizing this conference on biohacking, doing something different with all the information that we have so far. And all of this biohacking starts right here in Boracay. They are actually, I wanted to explain to you this slide, but you can take a picture and we can talk about it offline, because looks like chef is back and the lunch is ready. That's what they showed me. So I think I will stop right here, and I'm going to the beach to have fun again. And you're all welcome.